Everyone. Welcome to this candidates forum for the Pacific Grove Mayor and City Council. That's my problem. My name is Mary Ellen Dick. I'm here representing the League of Women Voters of Monterey County, and this forum is being sponsored by the Pacific Grove Chamber of Commerce. We've got two different forums here. First, we're going to start with the two mayoral candidates, and then which is Bill Peake and Mike Wachs. And then we will have the 6 candidates running for City Council. Joe Emilio, Debbie Beck, Mark Chaplin, Lori McDonald, Tina Rao, and Darla Vining. So just starting with the advertising, we are the League of Women Voters. We are nonpartisan, but we do take positions on different kinds of problems like water or green space and things like that, after we have done studies on it at the city, county, and local level. We would love people to join us. There is paper in the back on the tables back there by the door with membership, and we're certainly looking for people who are interested in voter service and interested in helping us put on forums like this. We are doing a whole series of forums, and those are on our website, League of Women. Now, regarding questions, we welcome questions. We like lots of questions. Every question must be polite. Every question must be available and appropriate for both candidates. No personal attacks will be read. No, we're doing this nice and polite and equal and giving everyone an equal chance on it. The forum, the forum format for the night is the 2 candidates pick numbers out of a hat, and so Mr. Wachs will go first and Mr. Peake will go second to start. There will be 2 minutes for an opening, 1 minute per question, which is going to go back and forth, and then 1 minute for a closing statement, and Mr. Peake will do the closing statement, and Mr. Wachs will do the second. We will do the same format when we do the 6 candidates for the City Council. They've already chosen their numbers, and that will we'll go from number 1 through number 6 and keep going through. But the first should be last, not both times. All right? So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so our timer is sitting right here in the red coat. Everyone should pay attention because we will cut off your talking at the end of the sentence after your time is up, because we want to have time to answer more questions. Mr. Wachs, you are going to get 2 minutes to give your opening statement.
All right.
Mr. Wachs.
Oh, but it was on. Okay. Hi, y'all. My name is Mike Wachs. I'm just going to sit up out of my chair a little bit, but that's me. I grew up in Arizona. I lived in Texas for 20 years, and 2 years ago, I moved to the peninsula with my wife, Stephanie, who's back there, and our 2 young kids, Iris and Harry. So now, I'm doing the thing that makes the most sense of all, which is running for mayor. But the answer, or the reason why really, is simple. From day one, we felt like locals here because of our amazing neighbors and the incredible friends that we made. And it became very clear very quickly that we were never leaving this place. This is where we will grow old and where our kids will grow up. And really where I hope they will raise their families. Because of that, I have a real sense of urgency to make Pacific Grove not only the best place to live now, but for decades to come. Let's see. We live in the most beautiful place in the world, and I want to make sure that everyone could be here. But not all types and ages are able to live here and live vibrant lives. So we can't afford to punt on tough decisions or offer Band-Aid solutions for difficult choices that affect our city. Time is going by quick. But I will say, or I'll quickly jump to, why me? So for over 20 years, my career has been in thinking big and innovation, from NBA teams to nonprofit organizations to government agencies. But the through line in all that has been community, how to build it, how to make it bigger, and how to keep it. So listen, people need to have a stake in Pacific Grove, is really what they need to have a stake.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Let me reiterate, we're going to do this politely and courteously to all, and we're not going to do any applause or booing or gloating or any of those kind of things. At the very end, when the two mayoral candidates have finished, then we'll do a round of applause. Okay. Mr. Peake.
Thank you, Mary Ellen, the League of Women Voters, and the PG Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event, and more importantly, you all for being here and participating. As you know, city government works best when people are engaged, and you are demonstrating that. Since the last election, we've turned the corner on COVID. During that time, city services remained intact, with the exception of library and recreation programs, which have now returned to normal. During COVID, we managed to maintain reserves in spite of decreasing revenues, and recently the library renewal project and the Point Pinos program were completed. Both are causes for celebration. Of course, even in a beautiful small town like ours, there will be challenges. Arguably, affordable housing is at the top. I'll work to encourage development of affordable homes in Pacific Grove, regulations that assist housing development, but also take into account the character of our city and preserve all that is good. Another challenge is maintaining our coastal environment. Coastal wildlife protection will continue to be a top priority for me. I'll work to add trees on public property, and I'll work to create a climate action plan. Lastly, our town would not be the same without our small businesses and our wonderful downtown. City government needs to encourage business community feedback, and we should streamline regulations where appropriate to help existing businesses and attract new ones. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. All right, you are going to answer the first question, and I'll tell both of you is that if you need a question repeated, I can repeat. So, question number one. What is your position on the Washington Park State Skateboard Park? What is your opinion about the process, about how that was identified as the #1 location? Mr. Peake?
So a number of issues are best first discussed in committees, city committees, and there's a number of issues to look at for any skate park. As I said in council, I am for a skate park in Pacific Grove. The question is the location and funding. And so we need to look at all the impacts on the neighborhood, as well as having a good skate park. So that's going to be coming to council, and so I'm going to keep an open mind until that happens, and listen to all the feedback, of which I've already gotten a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Mr. Wachs.
I am very in favor of the skate park. I grew up with one, and it was a major convening ground for youth and everyone to really do a hobby, be healthy, have fun. As far as GW Park, I think that area is definitely underutilized since it's designated as a recreation zone. Ultimately, after the studies come out, I don't know if it will be picked because of a variety of factors, but I want it to happen regardless. That's the most important thing. And I don't think we could keep on saying, well, this location or this location might be better. We have to decide after this analysis on a final place. So it will happen.
Thank you. Okay, now Mr. Wachs, you're going to go first with the next question, which is, what do you know about Pacific Grove that qualifies you to be the mayor of this town?
Well, I am a father of two who has moved here from other places and has seen how other cities operate. I've seen how cities operate in our region. And I could identify the ways to make things more vibrant. I think we live in a beautiful place, but we need to offer more for youth, more for businesses, support, tools, resources. And that is why I am the best person for this job, I think. I'm offering a new point of view, and I do really have an urgency to get things done.
Thank you. All right. If anybody else has questions, please be sure to get them to the ladies in the back. Mr. Peake?
So just briefly, my background in city government, I was on the recreation board for 4 years, and then I was elected as a council member for 4 years, and now I've been mayor for 4 years. So I have experience in city government representing you. And perhaps one of the biggest attributes of being on city council is listening and being respectful of all people's opinions and hearing all the inputs and making the best decision for the community as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. So you are going to go first on this question. In terms of your leadership, apart from reliance on hopes of raising city funds through marijuana dispensaries and more hotels, what are you willing to cut or eliminate from the city budget to bring us into financial health?
Okay, well, I'm going to have to argue about the premise of that question, because we've had reserves at 35%. That's been our policy for a number of years now, and we maintain that even in the face of declining revenue from sales tax and tourist tax. And so we know how to cut services. Our city staff took an effort to take a furlough. So we know how to make the tough decisions if it comes to that. But I think we're in good shape financially. We have been for quite some time. So I don't anticipate further cuts in services, and I hope we'll get some more roads and sidewalks done.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Mr. Wachs?
Yes, in my estimation, I agree with Mayor Peake. I don't think too much could really be cut from the budget, especially with furloughs during COVID and the reduction in services. We are operating pretty leanly right now, and I would also like to increase services and also, bike share programs and more services for the residents. The question was, what else would I cut? I do think that we're operating pretty leanly, and I don't have any recommendations at this time about what to cut.
Thank you. So the follow-up question to that then is, how are you going to raise revenue if you're not going to cut anything? Mr. Wachs first, Mr. Peake second.
Yes, so there are a variety of things. I think the TOT tax from a variety of hotel projects will increase revenue. I think perhaps a cannabis dispensary will also raise revenue a bit. But really, we also need businesses that are active in contributing more downtown to our tax revenue. We have a ton of vacancies downtown, and it is a blight, and it's not contributing to the atmosphere of our town. So we need to get more people in those businesses to contributing to our tax revenue.
Thank you. Mr. Peake?
I'd like to see more business revenue come into town and more successful businesses. I think that is certainly a key lever for bringing in additional city revenue. Am I in favor of new taxes? That sounds like the premise of this question. And I want to thank the voters for approving the half-cent sales tax. And I think that's been a lot of help. And I'd like to see us live within our means. I don't see a new tax measure out on the horizon that I'm very excited, or excited at all about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Peake. So the next question is, do you believe that there's any reason to doubt the integrity of our elections, either local or national? No, no.
I'll say no. I'll just cut to the chase. I don't think there's a nefarious plot to ruin the election here.
Mr. Peake?
And I'll agree with that. I haven't seen any evidence, but, you know, I don't go down to the Monterey County election, well, I did go down to the Monterey County Elections Department recently, pick up some voter registration material, but I don't go down there, and I haven't personally checked, but I haven't seen any evidence, newspaper articles, exposés on our elections, so I feel pretty confident that they'll be run correctly.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Okay, so the next question is, would you be supportive of a measure to tax second homes to increase revenue?
A tax on vacant homes. Well, recently that item has gained some traction, and I definitely see the attraction with it, that as homeowners, we're happy to see people come in and buy homes and kick up our home values, but on the other hand, it leaves vacant homes, and we could sure use some money for additional affordable housing. I'm going to have to punt on a clear answer to this, because this might come in the near future before council, and so I want to keep an open mind and hear all the issues associated with it. I will tell you one thing that's associated with it is how do you define a vacant home, you know, and who's going to be monitoring that. So there's a number of things that will have to be sorted out before we even start looking at it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a clarification?
Yes.
This is a second home or a vacant home?
It says if you support a tax on vacant, no, a measure to tax second homes to increase revenue.
Not second homes in general. I think, well, the mayor didn't state a position, but if a home is vacant and it's denying the city revenue and also a place to live for people who do want to live here, I think there should be a tax. Again, the people not being in those houses denies our city of revenue. Yeah.
Okay. All right, next question. And Mr. Wachs, you're going to go first.
Yes.
Okay. Would you support a tax on vacant commercial real estate to encourage greater occupancy?
Yes, I would. There have been a few stories about landlords basically purposely keeping the places vacant, which I don't quite understand, but maybe as a tax benefit to them, or the capital expenses to repair a downtown building for historic purposes might be too much for them. That's something that has to be addressed separately, and I think maybe the city should offer services or more help for rehabilitating historic properties. But yes, if a place is kept vacant purposefully, I think it is a detriment to the city, both aesthetically and from an economic perspective.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wachs. Mr. Peake.
I'm going to go out on a limb here because I think this question came up for council discussion a few months ago. I definitely lean towards against a tax on vacant businesses downtown. I think the much better solution, instead of penalizing our local businesses, we should be helping them to find ways to streamline the regulations, alter them in such a fashion that existing businesses can be more successful and attract new businesses downtown. That's the real solution.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Okay, next question you get to start with. How is the American Tin Cannery Project environmental project sound when up to 70 historic Monterey cypress trees will have to be replaced by potted trees? Also, please address the traffic that the hotel will bring.
Okay. We have 2 hours, right? So, you might have listened in on the Marathon Council meeting on the ATC. The permitting was approved by council in January 6-1. I was one of the 6. We imposed 77 conditions, a wide range of conditions, protecting harbor seals, trees, traffic, etc. And I think that, and now it will come before the Coastal Commission. It's on appeal. So I'm comfortable. I already voted. I'm on the record with the conditions for that project, and I put a few on there myself. And I think as long as they're implemented properly, I think it'll be okay. But let's see what the Coastal Commission has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Mr. Wachs?
Yes. As far as I understand, majority of the trees that are being removed were planted in the 70s, which may not qualify them as being historic in my estimation. And also, they are largely non-native plants. So the development is planting 48-inch tall, 4-foot trees, and they will be native to California, which I think would behoove the area for environmental reasons. And they're also planting more trees in totality than what is there now. So they may not look as majestic right now, but over time they will, I hope.
Thank you, Mr. Wachs. Okay, the next question, which you, Mr. Wachs, are going to start, is, could you please comment on the cannabis dispensary with respect to the revenue versus the liability securities issues that such a business might bring? Thank you.
From a legal perspective, no, but I believe that almost every other city in the region has a cannabis dispensary, and they're not being held liable for any, what was the phrasing of the question?
Liabilities and security.
Yes, they are not being held for any liabilities with security. I don't see rampant crime around dispensaries in other areas or anything like that. So I don't know if that's that question is leading or not.
Thank you, Mr. Wachs. Mr. Peake?
Well, security around any cannabis dispensary would be, the regulations would be in part of the permitting process. And when we talked about cannabis, well, now it's been 3 years almost, we got the chief of police involved as to what are the security issues associated with a cannabis shop and how would they be addressed. So I'm expecting it would be part of the permitting discussion with city staff and PD.
Next question, and Mr. Peake, you're going to go first. The city's under the gun to allow many new housing units to be built in the next few years. Do you think these new housing units should be single-family homes, condos, ADUs, or rental units?
All of the above. I mean, the crux of our state mandate for adding affordable homes is just that, it's affordability. It's not the size of the home, but obviously the large single-family dwellings are going to be the most expensive. So if we're going to make or try to put in place regulations to meet the state mandates for low-cost housing, they're going to have to be smaller units.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Mr. Wachs?
Yeah, I also agree it'll be a mix, although I think single-family homes would only be on infill developments, not any areas where there's currently commercial, which is where I would prefer mixed developments or condos or rentals. We need a mix of housing to both be sustainable environmentally and economically, and any options are for the best, for the better.
Okay, so Mr. Wachs, you're going to go first. And the next question is, state your view on limits to growth. What increase in density and traffic do you want?
I am personally for revising the parking zoning. I actually forget what it is right now, but I would be in favor of not having a parking minimum for any new developments to encourage public transportation, bikes, walking, to make it more like a hometown and sustainable compact development. The other part of that question was, please refresh my memory. Oh, limits on growth. We have a 4.5 square mile area, and we have protected forests and wildlife areas. So again, I think we should provide housing areas in the infill developments and redevelop commercial areas for mixed use to hit our state mandate.
Thank you. Mr. Peake.
We're going to be having a extensive community outreach program, and I think I saw our community development director here in the room. Not to put her on the spot, but she's going to be in charge of getting feedback from everybody to answer that particular question. So it's premature to say this is the answer. We already have on the books zoning that allows for more denser housing, and we'll be probably looking at changing that zoning to add denser housing, the possibility of denser housing. And there was another part of that. Well, there's parking and there's height and lot coverage. Those are the key parameters that tell us how much housing on a parcel. So we'll be looking at all that, getting your feedback.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Okay, so there's one last question, and then we're going to go to the sum up. It is extremely difficult for many workers to find affordable housing in Pacific Grove. Is it possible for the city to help these workers in any way?
We're going to try, that's for sure. I think to have a viable community, we need to be able to house the workers in this community, and that's the business people, the shopkeepers, the teachers, and so we need to find ways. City government doesn't build houses. We're not in that business, but we are setting the regulatory environment to encourage the right development in the city, and now I think most people would agree the right development is to look for ways to encourage affordable housing. And we'll be looking for money for grants. We'll look at projects on city parking lots, et cetera. There's quite a range of possibilities that are on our Welcome Home Affordable Pacific Grove website.
Thank you. Mr. Wachs.
Yes, again, we should look at all options and review plans. As you may know, I am not from here. I moved here recently, and in our short time here, we've known 2 or 3 families who've had to leave the state because of housing with kids. That's a huge disruption for the kids, for the family, and for our area. It's a huge drain on stability. So if we can offer for condos financing programs for rent, maybe assistance with working with the school district, I think we should look into all those options, for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Wachs. All right, so we're going to do the sum up next, because we are ahead of schedule, because we got lots of questions for the council, but not as many for the 2 of you. I'm going to give you each 2 minutes for this final sum up.
Oh,
And Mr. Peake, you get to go first, even though, see, this is just to confuse you, since we've been double backing, but since you went second on that intro, you get to go first on the sum up.
all right. Thank you, Mary Ellen. I'm going to be merciful. I only have a 1-minute closing speech, so anyhow. It's been a real honor and privilege to represent you and be mayor the last 4 years. After tonight, I trust you will ask more questions of the candidates, and I know you will go home and discuss the candidates with friends, family, and neighbors. Of course, think about providing more feedback to council. Send us emails, call in on Zoom during council meetings, or attend in person, even after this election. It's always great to see folks in person. This is so wonderful. Thank you again for being here tonight and taking part in this important event.
Thank you, Mr. Peake. Mr. Wachs.
Yeah, I want to echo Mayor Peake's sentiments. Thank you, Mary Ellen, and thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you all to showing up and participating in democracy and conversation. An exchange of ideas is one of the reasons why I ran and why I hope to win and lead Pacific Grove into the future. I want to make it clear that I'm not voting tonight. I've stated my opinions, and maybe they've been blunt or brisk, but I'm big on information. If some of these items ever came up to vote, I would definitely hear all viewpoints, and I want to make an informed decision always. I have spent my career a lot in design, and often when you're a designer or an art director, you bring your favorite direction or look to the table, and then other stakeholders are like, no, not that one. So you are flexible and you change your mindset and you work for the better good of the whole group. And that's what I hope to do as mayor. And I thank you all so much, and please talk to me afterwards and ask more questions. Thank you.
Thank you both very much for coming and answering our questions. We're going to have a 5-minute